In the Palestine, people have been fighting for centuries. It's the birthplace of three main religions: Christianity, Islam and Judaism, which never coexisted for a longer time peacefully. And also, it is a main crossroad between Europe, Asia and Africa, where every single empire from all those continents met and fought against each other. Let me explain. First, you may ask, who was first there? Israelites, aka Jews, or Palestinians? I could say Jews. No, Palestinians. Jews. Palestinians. Wait. We haven't started yet and we are already fighting. From what we know, first there were Hebrews, descendants of the Israelites, for a quite long time. There is a full book about it, the Bible, the first 5 books of it respectively. Their story begins already a few thousand years before Jesus was even born. Already at that time, it was a restless place. Many of first civilizations such as Egypt, Mesopotamia, Hittites, Babylonians, Assyrians and so on neighbored or even owned the region. It was an important trade crossroad, so everyone wanted to control it. It is no surprise that the first recorded battle ever, Battle of Kadesh, happened just behind the borders in Syria. And so time went. War and war, again and again. Persian Empire, Alexander the Great, and then the Romans. They screw all it up from the 3 reasons which influence even the situation today. First, around year 30 AD, they crucified a man who became the main character of the new religion, Christianity. His name was Jesus, and so he was born, lived and died in Palestine. The places where he moved and lived became holy for millions of people. Second, as the Jews were unhappy with the Roman occupation, they rose up against them many times. And so, in the year 135, the Romans ran out of patience. They moved all Jews out of Palestine to many places all around the Roman Empire. They even renamed the land after the main Jewish opponent, Philistines, from Judea to Palestine. The Jews have disappeared from Palestine for almost 2000 years. And the third reason, in the year 622, another man's story is written. The story of Muhammad. After his escape from Mecca to Medina, the last of the 3 main religions is established, Islam. Only a few years later, there is a war against the Eastern Roman Empire, and so Arabs conquer Palestine. And because Muhammad's prayer with other prophets was supposed to happen in Jerusalem, the city as well as whole Palestine became holy land for all 3 religions. So the holy land for 3 main religions, the trade crossroad between 3 continents, sounds like the kind of land everyone wants for themselves. Yeah, that's not all yet. As time went, the many crises and wars appeared, such as Turks' invasion, Crusades, Mongols' invasion, Turks again, who led Palestine until the end of the First World War, which they lost, and our today's problems began. Turks lost Palestine, and as it transferred to the hands of Great Britain, Jews started to dream of moving back to their old fatherland. This movement was called Zionism. Thousands of Jews started to move to Palestine and establish colonies with no respect to people who were already there. Palestinians. Palestinians was a name for a local people who were basically a mix of all ethnicities, which moved through Palestine in history. Genetically, they are even closer to Hebrew people than European Jews. And so the last puzzle sticked to the place of constant fighting in Palestine, the land of 2 nations, Israelites and Palestinians, who hate and fight each other. But why do they? Well, imagine a situation where your family lives on one place for 2000 years, and then one day thousands of people start to come to your land and neighborhood. People who look, act and believe differently than you. After a few years they even kick you and your friends out of your homes and raze your house to the ground. That's basically what happened in Palestine. Israelites colonized land by taking it from people living there for 2000 years. And because Germans killed millions of Jews in Holocaust, no one in Europe and Western world wanted to oppose the Jews and their wish to establish new Jewish state, Israel, on their fatherland's land, in Palestine. Palestine was split in 2 parts, Muslim Palestine and Jewish Israel. The worst thing was the shape of both lands, where Muslim part was split in two, Gaza Strip and the Western Bank. There was no chance that such a country can survive for long. Most of the Muslim countries in the region stood with Muslim Palestine, so immediately after creation of Israel, all of them attacked it. Jordan, Egypt, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen and Saudi Arabia. The small state of Israel won this unfair battle with the support of the UK and the USA. The beaten Arab countries did not forget. The hate on Jewish Israel spread like the fire in the desert. And so, 19 years later, in 1967, there was another war. Egypt, Syria and Jordan lost again, this time with significant territorial losses. You think it was enough for them? Of course not. Already 6 years later, there was another clash called Yom Kippur War, and as you suppose, Israel won again, but this time with heavy losses. And so, unbelievable happened. Israel negotiated with Arabian states of Egypt, Jordan and Lebanon. With those they made agreement and it keeps stable relationships until today. But one problem remained. In the wars, Israel gained control over Gaza Strip as well as over the West Bank and occupied both Palestinian regions. They also continued with colonization and establishing of cities on land that was supposed to be part of the Palestinian hood. The constant wars also led to the fact that every Palestinian has experienced sacrifice in the family. Everyone lost someone in family or has got injuries on body and soul. For example, today's leader of Hamas, Mohammed Deif, lost in the fights with Israel his hand, legs, son, daughter and wife. And as they were left alone with no weaponry that could compare with the Israel's one, they resorted out of desperation to only working fight, terrorist attacks. And so the Intifada began. Constant attacks of desperate people with desperate one wish: wipe out Israel. And because both sides fight for their survival, they are never going to stop until one of the sides destroys the other. Sad and pathetic. But there is no solution to this conflict. That is why this region is constantly in fight.